Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be diving into, well, it's one of those things that's super exciting when you find it in a video game.
Yeah.
Endless replayability. Like, you just can't put the game down,
Right.
even after you've technically, beaten it, or whatever that means for that game.
That's that thing that keeps us coming back for more, right? That endless
Yes.
possibilities and discovery, and that's what we're talking about today. This idea of infinite metagames.
Yeah, and the article that we're looking at today for this deep dive is by Reactorcore, and it's called How to Set Up Pacing, Difficulty, and Progression Within an Infinite Metagame.
Right.
And I'm already, fascinated by this idea.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, I'm a little skeptical, right? Can you really design a game
Yeah.
for, infinite play?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is, and I don't even know where to begin to unpack that.
Well, maybe we start with why traditional games kind of fall short when it comes to replayability. It's like we accept these limitations without even realizing it.
Yeah, you're right. I've never even, questioned the whole easy, medium, hard thing that most games do. You grind to the top, and then what? It's like the game just runs out of steam.
Right, exactly. It's that linear progression system, right? Like you
Yeah.
were saying, it's like a carrot on a stick,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just chasing power for no reason.
Hmm.
The article actually calls it a scam.
Oh, wow.
A little harsh, but
Makes you think, though.
it makes you think, right?
It does. What about those solutions they try to put in, like the scalable opponents and scalable zones? They always feel so artificial to me.
Totally. It's like the world's warping itself around your progress, you
Yeah.
know? It takes me right out of it.
Exactly.
It's like imagine if you were playing a board game
Yeah.
and the rules constantly changed,
Yeah.
to make sure you were always about to win or lose.
Right.
It just wouldn't be fun,
It'd be forced. It wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then you've got roguelites, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're all about repetition.
Yeah.
But even they struggle to keep things interesting, in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, they can feel like you're just running on a treadmill.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're moving, but you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
So how do we break free from all that?
Well, the article suggests that maybe we should look beyond games
Okay.
and draw inspiration from something that's already open-ended.
Yeah.
The real world.
Yeah, that's interesting. What parts of real life are we talking about here?
Well, think about what makes real life so dynamic, right? Like resource scarcity, interconnected systems, consequences for our actions. The fact that you can succeed or fail.
Oh, so you're saying instead of just climbing this ladder of power forever, it's more about surviving and thriving in a world with actual limits and risks?
Yeah.
Okay, well that sounds kind of intense.
It can.
But I can see how it would be way more rewarding in the long run too.
Right, exactly. What if losing all your stuff was a real possibility?
Uh-oh.
Then you got to think more carefully about every move.
You'd have to.
Or what if your actions had ripple effects that changed the world, even after you moved on?
Yeah, that reminds me of playing Minecraft for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
You could build all this cool stuff.
Yeah.
But you could also lose it all,
Yeah.
to one dumb mistake, or a creeper blows up or something.
Totally. That tension is part of what makes it so fun.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a key part of infinite metagames. Vulnerability.
Okay.
It's not about being invincible. It's about mastering a world that can always push back.
So even if you are really powerful, things can still go wrong.
Exactly. Anyone's vulnerable.
Wow. So it's not about beating the game. It's about learning to live in it almost.
Yeah. It's about thriving.
Thrive. Okay. That makes sense. But how do we actually build a game like that?
Well, that's a great question.
Where do you even start? I mean, it sounds really cool, in theory, but how do you take all these big ideas and actually turn them into a game?
Right.
How do you design for infinite replayability?
Yeah, well, that's where the article gets into this framework,
Right.
for actually designing an infinite metagame. And it all starts with this idea of a grace period.
A grace period. What's that?
So basically, instead of just throwing new players into the deep end right away, you ease them in, You give them time to learn the ropes before you unleash the full craziness of the metagame.
So it's you learn to swim in the shallow end
Exactly.
before you go and jump off the diving board.
You don't want to scare them away.
Right. Especially in a game that's meant to be played for a long time.
Exactly. You want to give them a taste,
Yeah.
Get them hooked, but not overwhelm them.
I gotcha. So what happens after they've kind of gotten their feet wet?
Yeah, well, then the real fun begins. That's where you introduce this idea of like modular procedural campaign structures.
Modular procedural what now?
Okay, so imagine a game, right? Where every part of the experience, like the difficulty, how fast it moves, how long the campaign is, even like what you start with, it can all be shuffled around, like mixed and matched to create tons of different variations.
Wait, so like every time you play, it's different?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, give me an example. How would this actually work?
Okay, so think about like a classic RPG, right?
Yeah.
You've got your themed zones, forest, desert, snow, whatever.
I know exactly what you mean.
Right, they're predictable.
Totally.
But what if those zones could be rearranged every time you played? And what if the difficulty within those zones was different every time?
So you're saying, like, I could start in a super hard desert.
Exactly.
And then go to, like, an easy snow level and then end up in a crazy forest.
Yeah, you got it. And that's just, like, one example. You could start with barely any resources.
Oh, wow.
Or you could start with amazing gear, but then the world's harder to match it.
Oh, okay. So it's always like balanced, but it's different every time.
Right. No more memorizing the same old stuff. Every playthrough is a totally new experience.
Man, that would keep things interesting. But like, isn't that super complicated to make?
It is. It is. But that brings us to another key principle, dynamic balance.
Dynamic balance.
Yeah. So instead of just having a fixed difficulty curve, the game world itself, like, adapts to the player, creates this constantly shifting challenge.
So it's less about like just getting more powerful and more about learning to work with the world, however it is at that time.
Exactly. You're not just climbing a ladder, you're navigating a whole ecosystem.
Okay, I like that. But then how do you even measure progress?
That's the best part. In an infinite metagame, progress isn't just about getting stronger. It's about shaping your world, leaving your mark on it, like it's more like artistry than brute force.
So it's not about conquering the game, it's about like becoming part of it.
Yeah, exactly. The article actually uses this analogy of like cultivating a bonsai tree.
A bonsai tree.
Yeah, so just like, a bonsai artist, they carefully prune and shape the tree over time.
Yeah.
Players in an infinite metagame, they're kind of doing the same thing to their world.
Oh, I see what you mean.
It's about creating something beautiful, something unique through your interaction with the game.
I really like that. It's less about winning and more about like expressing yourself.
Exactly. And that sense of ownership, that you're creating something that matters.
Yeah.
It's a powerful motivator for players. It makes them want to share their experiences, compare their worlds with others,
It's like building a community around the game even.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, creating a community of creators, each shaping their own little corner of this infinite world.
I'm really getting this now. It's about like games becoming almost like an extension of ourselves,
Yeah.
But, and I don't want to be a downer here, but how do you actually like manage an infinite game?
Right.
Like once you run out of memory or processing power or something?
That's a great question. And the article has a clever solution for that.
Yeah.
The wilderness zone.
The wilderness zone, okay.
So basically you divide the world into two parts,
Okay.
Each with its own purpose.
Right, explain.
So first you have the regular world. This is your home base, Stable, persistent. You manage your resources there, plan your adventures, build your base.
So it's like the foundation of your experience.
Exactly. It's where you put down roots,
Yeah.
And then you've got the wilderness zone. This is where the infinite part comes in.
Okay.
It's dynamic, it's procedurally generated, always changing.
So it's like the playground where you go to have adventures.
Precisely. New challenges, uncharted territories, the whole shebang.
And because it's procedural, it can be like reset or whatever without messing up the main world.
Exactly. You can experiment, explore without breaking anything permanently.
I like that.
Yeah.
But how do my actions out in the wilderness affect the regular world?
That's where mementos and history logs come in. So when you finish an adventure, you bring back like souvenirs, artifacts, trophies, stories in your journal, whatever.
So you're still building your story even though the wilderness is...
It's actually, you're building a legacy, and those mementos, they're not just trinkets. They can unlock stuff in your regular world.
Oh, okay.
Give you crafting materials, even trigger special events.
So it's like you're bringing back pieces of the wilderness to make your regular world even cooler.
You got it. It's this constant interplay between the stable and the dynamic.
Yeah.
You know, the permanent and the fleeting. It's what makes infinite metagames so fascinating.
It's like a reflection of real life, isn't it?
Exactly. We want stability, we want meaning, but we're also constantly dealing with change, with the unexpected.
Makes you think, are there other parts of real life we could use to make games even better?
That's a great question, and maybe something to think about as we wrap up here.
You really got me thinking there. If real life is like the ultimate infinite game,
yeah,
what else can we learn from it to design games that aren't just fun to play,
right?
But also like have some real meaning to them, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think it comes down to understanding what makes life so engaging in the first place. That balance of creation and destruction, you know, how everything's connected and like that constant search for meaning even when things are uncertain.
Yeah, that's deep. What if games actually reflected that?
Right. Instead of always being about power.
Yeah.
What if they challenged us to like build communities or protect ecosystems, you know?
So like you're not just building a base, you're actually building like a whole society.
Exactly. And that society has needs, it has weaknesses.
Wow.
Your choices could like pollute the environment or help it thrive, you know?
Oh, that's interesting. So you'd have to think about the long-term effects of your actions.
Yeah, you got to think systemically.
I like that. You'd be shaping the world, not just reacting to it.
And that's what's so cool about these infinite metagames. They push us to think beyond just the next reward, you know? To really embrace complexity. They're asking us to become like caretakers of these virtual worlds.
So it's almost like games could become a way to learn and grow.
Yeah, they can be more than just entertainment.
That's awesome. And it doesn't even have to be a specific genre, right? Like you could do this with any kind of game.
Exactly. Whether it's an RPG or an action game or even a puzzle game, you know?
Yeah.
You can use these ideas to create something that's both deep and replayable.
So what's the takeaway here for everyone listening?
Look for games that do this. Games that ask you to think differently.
Okay.
To consider the consequences of your actions. Games that are about more than just getting to the top of the leaderboard.
To really become part of the world, yeah. I think it's safe to say that the future of gaming is about breaking free from those old limitations.
Absolutely.
And really embracing the infinite possibilities of games as these living, breathing worlds.
Yeah. And as we explore those possibilities, I'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If real life is like a giant sandbox, what are you going to create in it? What kind of mark are you going to leave?
Ooh, good question. That's all for this deep dive, folks. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of infinite metagames. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep playing.